Thank you again to Parvi for creating this challenge. This time we're looking at the customers of SuperBytes. So one thing that we needed to do with this file when we were reading in this customer spending table is we need to turn on this data interpreter. So I'm going to uncheck it quickly to show you how it looked before, and you can see how lots of things have broken down the line, and our field names are all F1 to F8. And if I take a look at the data here and look at maybe just the table, then I can see that actually my headers are in rows that are lower down, and so the data interpreter is super helpful at helping us out in these sorts of situations. Excel kind of comes in and finds the table names for us, the field names for us, which is super helpful. We did need to, however, change a few of the names. So for example, this first row was picking up as just name, so we can just edit this here in the input step to be first name. Similarly, edit the last name, and then I think that I also changed the sale total to be called sales as well. And you can see those changes tracked here in that column as well. Lovely. The customer names was already nice and clean, which was helpful, but here they are here. And for our first step, we're just going to join these two tables together on both the first name and the last name so that we're getting still those 999 rows coming out. And then we don't want any customer names to be present in our data set, so we remove the first name and last name that came from both of those tables. So we're just left with the customer ID. Next, we're wanting to turn this online or in person into just one field. That's often helpful if we want to do some filtering. In Tableau Desktop, we would want everything to be in one field rather than having these two separate fields. So we could write an if statement for that, but I thought it might just be easier, a bit more visual, if we pivoted those two fields, so the online in person, down into one field. And so that gives us our pivot 1 values of yes and no, and it gives us our pivot 1 names of online or in person. But the issue here is that we've duplicated our data. We've got both the yeses and the nos coming through. So we want to filter that so that we're only keeping the yeses here, because that's going to leave us with whether it is online or in person. So we do that by clicking on the yes and saying keep only that field, those values, sorry, and that reduces our data set back down to 999 rows. Brilliant. And then we just rename that pivot 1 values field, pivot 1 names, sorry, to be online or in person rather than pivot 1 names. Lovely. Next up, we want to look at our date fields, and we want to turn that into the day of the week instead. So we can go to the menu option here, go convert dates and say day of the week for this date, which will update our fields to the day of the week rather than being a date. And we just rename that to be our weekday. And now we're ready to do our ranking. So we come to our sales field, we go to create calculator field, we go to the rank, and we want this to restart for every weekday. So we'll choose our weekday in our group by section here, and our sales are being sorted in descending order, which is good. That's how we want it to be. So we just rename this rank to be rank. And that's what I do in the next step. So I just delete that change. We can see that rank coming up here. And finally, what we want to do is just filter this data set down, so we're only looking at one day of the week at a time. So we create a parameter, and we call it day of the week, and we make it a list, and then we just type out Monday to Sunday in our values here, and say OK. And then we make sure to link it to our workflow somehow, and we do that via a filter, so filtering the weekday equals to the day of the week, and then we in our output, we then make sure that the name of our file has that parameter name in there so that we always know what data we're looking at. And if I want to update it at any point, I just need to remember to press the set button after I've chosen my day of the week. And then we can see that that dynamically changes and updates. So thanks again, Parvi, for this challenge, and thank you very much for watching.